Hello everybody, it's Bubba Rob. How's it going? Good, I hope. Anyways, I'm in my car today because the video that I released this morning, I was listening to, there's quite a bit of wind noise. Sorry about that. That kind of sucked. But, maybe cause a person to pay a little bit more attention to it, listen to it closely. I don't know. I'm not exactly the most, professional person as far as editing goes. Oh, my earbuds are falling out. Maybe too much wax in my head or something. Anyways, how's everybody today? Yeah, good. Geez, my topic of the day. I thought it would be a good idea to talk about silence, actually. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to read a Stoic quote from Aristotle. And what I want you to do is really listen to it. Okay? You got me? Are you listening? Are you focused in? Okay. Aristotle famously once said, "Before a crowd, the ignorant are more persuasive than the educated." Now, what has that got to do with silence? Well, I will tell you. A person's ego can be a pretty dangerous and persuasive thing, because when your ego takes over and there's a crowd, the person with the ego will always be the loudest. And a lot of times they try to be the loudest to be persuasive to whatever their ideals are, or thoughts are, or their argument is, especially when they don't have really any basis of truth behind them. I don't know, does this sound familiar? Does this sound familiar with politicians, how they may fake it till they make it, right? And the problem is people are very much attracted to it. And it's a real sign of ignorance if you're following somebody who's very loud. It's just the way it is. It's the way a lot of people do. I don't know if it's because they're, socialized to that, say through churches or whatever, but it's just something people do. They like to sit and listen, and the one who's loud enough and garnishes enough attention usually wins the crowd, especially if they're a very good public speaker, right? They can be landing you a pile of hooey and you don't even know it. Just what happens. But where silence comes in, which is so important, is actually just to be able to stand back and listen and formulate your opinion. Go away, think on something 2 or 3 days. Try and research what's being talked about to see if there's any truth to it. Or somebody telling you something just because you want to hear it. Right? It's really important to be a critical thinker in life about what's really going on. It's a lost art. But what I'd like to do is give you a real world example of what I'm talking about, because as I was mulling over the idea of this video in my head this morning, my friend Jeff pops by and we start having a chat about silence and how important it is to step back and read the room. Now, my real world example is, we were on this job site, a few years ago. And, the main contractor, who's a good friend of mine, is trying to do his best. Don't take this as I'm trying to run anybody down. But, there's always these meetings, especially when, say, if the engineer comes by for design, like for structural issues or water issues, or how to control the rainwater and the drains and all sorts of stuff, right? And what I would do is I would just kind of stand out of the pack, say, lean up against my truck or something, and just listen. I didn't want to be right in there. And the reason I didn't want to be right in there, because there was a carpenter who really thought he knew his shit. And boy, he loved to tell everybody. So a 5 or 10 minute conversation would turn into an hour, hour and a half, which I guess if it has to happen, it has to happen. But, you know, I'm not the guy paying for everybody to stand there, right? And really, the amount of information that needed discussed would be taken care of in, say, 10, 15 minutes. Everybody should just be attentively listening to the engineer, the directions, and move on and get to work. So anyways, what I would do is I'd stand back and I would listen, sometimes around the corner. And then when the engineer was leaving, I would make a point, go talk to him. It'd take a couple of minutes. Okay, what do I need to know? Am I correct? Discuss a few things, maybe a couple different options. And away I go about my job, right? So anyways, the contractor came to me and he was kind of annoyed with me, and he says, "Oh, you really need to be part of the conversation with everybody else." I said, "Do I?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Why do you think I'm not part of the conversation, or I'm not listening?" "Well, you're standing way over there." I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Why aren't you part of the conversation?" I said, "Well, I don't need to be." Oh, he was kind of getting annoyed with me. And he said, "Why don't you need to be?" I said, "I need to listen." And I said, "And then I need to have a conversation possibly with the engineer after to make sure I understood everything correctly and maybe discuss different ways to do things." And, I kind of, kept it short and be respectful, right? So he didn't quite get it. "I really like you to be part of the conversation." I said, "No," I said, just have some faith in me, and I'm paraphrasing here, of course. Just let me stand back and have a good listen, be quiet. I really want to know what's going on." And then, I'm not sure if it was the same day, but anyways, he came to me again with the issue, and I said, "Listen," I was pretty blunt. I said, and I'm paraphrasing, you're not paying me to be here to listen to the horse shit out of that carpenter's mouth when he doesn't know what he's talking about." Pardon the expression. It's true. The guy was full of shit. All he was interested in was telling people what he knew and how everybody else was wrong, and you had to do what he said. And, I could tell the engineer was getting frustrated, and I said, "I'm just not into it. You're not paying me enough to be here to do that." And I walked away. Anyways, I forgot how many months later, everything got done. Our job got done quite well, minus a few issues with the carpenter misbehaving. And, when he'd act up, I'd just be silent. I'd watch him walk away and kick the dirt like somebody in kindergarten. Away he would go. God, he was, what a goof. I mean, unbelievable. But the easiest way to deal with him was just silence. And it wasn't worth getting into it with him, because he wasn't going to listen to anyways, because as far as he's concerned, I was just this dumb guy with a machine that 25 years of experience didn't mean anything. I know, he could shove that red seal of his right, where. It's unbelievable. The guy was probably the worst I've seen in all the years in the construction site as far as ego and inability to communicate and just pure decency as a human being towards others. Bar none. So anyways, after the job is done, I forget how many months later, I go for coffee with my friend. And I think it was for coffee, somewhere we at another job site. He's shaking his head and he says, "Oh, you have no idea what I had to do to deal with that guy." "Oh, what do you mean?" He's going on about all this guy's insecurities and how difficult he was to deal with and how much time he wasted. And I said, "Oh, sorry to hear about that." I didn't say nothing. And I don't even think he realized I was right and he was wrong. It's sad. It's really amazing how much silence carries and gives you power, how to deal with people in a situation, and just keep your mouth shut. It's important. Aristotle understood that. It's so important. I mean, it's incredible the ability to listen and stand back and observe things and walk away, make an informed decision. It's so extremely important, and it's very stoic. I just don't understand how people don't understand that. All you have to do is watch YouTube, right? That's all you have to do. Whether it's right wing or left wing or anything like that, is how a lot of these people trying to impose their thoughts and their belief on you with the catch-a phrase, and it's not doing you any good. All it does is cause stress and anxiety. The reality of what's really going on, it just gets diluted and it becomes one big fog, right? So the moral of the story is, to me, the greatest gift in taking care of yourself, a lot of times, is just being silent. Disassociate yourself with what's going on. Think about things logically and move on. Let things go. Okay? There you go. That's my topic for the day. Oh, geez. There's a truck going by. Good for them. They must have enjoyed the beach with their dog. Okay. Anyways, I love you all. It's time for me to sign off. I hope you all have a great day. Love you all. Bye-bye. Oh, yeah. Wait a minute. I forgot my sign off. The most important thing in this world is to be kind. Okay? Don't forget it. Bye-bye.